If it was a younger wrestler and he made a few mistakes, Verne would take him to the side and just correct them.
We'll close it off here with a couple of questions. Here's a good one by CB. Question for Greg. What would a wrestler have to do so in or out of the ring to get fired on the spot by Verne? Is there something egregious that Verne would be like, nope, not that. See you later.
I never saw anybody get fired by him for something that went on in the ring.
Yeah.
No. If it was a younger wrestler and he made a few mistakes, Verne would take him to the side and just correct them.
Yeah.
You know, go over it with them. Okay, why did you do that? Or what made you do that?
Yeah.
You know, or you have to do this to make yourself better. That was the wrong thing to do. I don't ever remember him firing anybody for something in the ring, though.
How many strikes would it be for stuff like outside of the ring? Like, because obviously you deal with Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch and things like that.
Well, God almighty, they were in trouble every week.
Right. So, like, what was Verne's disciplinary? Did that kind of vary by how big of a star they were in certain ways?
No, you just bring them into the office and talk to them.
Yeah.
Get their butts out, and they'd all go have a beer together, and
that's it.
The next time they do something else.
Well, say, for example, okay, Dick Murdoch and Dusty do something. So they're notable names. But then say, like, some lower card, nobody, like, does something like that. Well, how would Verne handle something like that in comparison?
Well, I mean, if they're totally out of hand and they made something that embarrassed not the wrestler, but the
company,
the company and the company more so.
Yeah.
And the fan base and the other wrestlers. You know, I'm sure I know he probably fired a couple guys, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was always or some guys wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
You know, most of them though were pretty respectable of, you know, Verne had a pretty good reputation.
Yeah.
As did Eddie Graham, Bill Watts, Bob Geigel, you know, so on and so forth. You know, with those guys, they didn't mess around too much.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if there was some off, well, I tell you, the Midnight Rockers almost got fired.
I believe that. Yeah.
And they did some things that were really detrimental, not only to the wrestling, but to people outside.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into that.
Yeah.
But they were a couple, boy. Sean and Marty.
Jeez.
I worked for the WWE. Sean came up to me and he said, "Hey, I got to apologize for what." I said, "For what?" He said, "Well, for the way I acted in the AWA." And I said, "Well, Sean, you were young then, and you know, we'll let it go."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.